Hi, I'm Jane Heller, and I'd like to talk to you today about caregiving. There are 78 million caregivers in this country, and that number is low because now we have COVID-19, and I can't even imagine what number of caregivers we have now. But I trust that everybody who may be watching this has been a caregiver at one point for a child, a spouse, a parent, a grandparent, a family friend. We've all been having to step up and have the job, and some of us are better than others. And what I want to tell you is that when I became a caregiver, I was not very good at the job. I grew up in a family where my mom was a caregiver to my dad, who died of brain cancer when I was only 6. And then my stepfather had complications from epilepsy, and so he passed away as well. But I watched over the years, I watched her be such a good caregiver, so strong, so brave, and I admired her greatly. But I thought, I don't want any part of that. When I get married, I'm not going to marry for looks, for wealth. I'm going to marry for health. And well, of course, the joke was on me because the heart wants what it wants. And my heart wanted Michael. And so 28 years ago, I married a man who turned out to have Crohn's disease, which is a chronic illness that affects the GI system. And Michael, it turned out, I discovered on our first trip to the ER, he'd had over 75 hospitalizations and maybe 35 surgeries by then. And he was, in hospital parlance, a frequent flyer because he was there so much. And so I had to learn what is involved in being a good caregiver. And I asked experts from all over the country in every field, how do I do this better? And they told me. And I wrote a book about it called You Better Not Die or I'll Kill You, which is what I used to say to Michael when he would be on the gurney on his way to the OR. They would stop the gurney before those double doors of the OR, and I would say to him, look, you better not die or I'll kill you. And he would laugh and off he'd go. And so that's the title I gave the book. But in any case, what I want to talk to you about today, because we don't have a lot of time, is to focus on self-care. You know, if we don't take care of ourselves, who's going to take care of them? And so self-care is extremely important. And so just a few tips for you today. First thing, sounds obvious. We've got to get a good night's sleep. When I don't get a good night's sleep, I don't know about you, but I find myself fuzzy and not being all there and present. And we want to be able to function at our highest level. So getting a good night's sleep is crucial. And in my case, I remember I used to obsess about Michael's care, and then later my mom, who had dementia, caring for both of them and worrying, was I doing the right thing? Were they getting the right medications? Did the doctor call? All of that. Number one, remove all light sources from the room. That means phones, computers, televisions, all devices, and just keep the room as dark as possible. And then invest in a little sleep mask for your eyes. They're very comfortable. I wear one, and it just keeps it dark and easier for you to get to sleep. Another way to sleep, go to the local drugstore and invest in something really low tech, like a heating pad. I mean, you could get a hot water bottle, but I use a heating pad. And set it on warm, not hot. We don't want you to burn yourself. And place it over your stomach, and it will gently soothe you to sleep. It really does work. You could try the old-fashioned count back from 100, which is a variation on counting sheep. And what it does is it focuses you on your breathing so that you can say, 100, 99, and you take a breath with each number. And hopefully that will work for you. Um, you might want to get a white noise machine. There are many things you can do. And right now, what I'm doing is taking 5 milligrams of melatonin, which you can buy at your drugstore. It's a natural product and it sort of resets the sleep mechanism in the body. And I find it very effective. Next, I want to talk about taking a mental vacation, is what I call it. Caregivers are sort of control freaks. We think if we're not around, all chaos will break loose. Well, we can ask a friend to come and stay with our loved one for a half hour or an hour so that we can take time and go exercise, go walk around the block, just do some yoga, do some breathing. What else can we do? We can watch Netflix by ourselves. We can get something wonderful to eat. We can, in my case, I love humor, so I watch romantic comedies. But you can watch a detective story, anything that helps you escape, or sports. Even in the time of COVID, they're playing baseball. I know because I watched my Yankees last night. So by all means, take a mental vacation. The next thing I want to mention, since I mentioned rom-coms, is laughter. Laughter really is the best medicine. Studies have shown that laughter decreases the cortisol levels in the body. That's the stress hormone. And so find the funny in whatever it is you're doing, because there is some. If not, watch something on Netflix that makes you laugh. Just make sure to laugh. Conversely, I want to recommend crying. Crying is not just for crybabies. I have a very small car, and when I would visit Michael in the hospital or my mom, I would be very strong in front of them. And then I'd get in my car, and it was sort of womb-like. And I would just sob for 15 minutes. And then after I was finished, it felt really cathartic. And I would wipe my tears and go on about my business. And I asked a therapist about that. And she said, crying is really empowering because you realize that you can be really sad and still be okay. We don't disintegrate just because we're sad. So don't beat up on yourself if you dissolve into tears. And finally, I just want to hit home about the healing power of touch. I would visit Michael or my mom in the hospital, and I'd walk by a lot of rooms, and I'd see the caregiver sitting in the visitor's chair and the patient in the bed. And the caregiver would be on his or her phone, on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And the patient would just be lying there. And so reach out and touch that person that you love. For example, depending on the condition of the person that you're caregiving for, reach under the covers and hold his or her hand. You will feel more connected to that person, and he or she will feel less of a burden to you. Every morning, I just instinctively reach out and stroke Michael, my husband's, cheek. And I used to do the same thing with my mom when she was alive. I just would stroke her cheek and she would almost purr like a cat. She couldn't really speak at that point, but you could feel her feeling more connected to me. And so I urge people to remember, touch the person you're caring for. So in summing up, I just want to say we are all in this together, all 78 million plus of us, and we have each other's backs. And I certainly have yours. So thanks so much for watching and take good care.